Hey everybody, I'm Sean McAnally.
John Hall.
Guys, today we're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about vitamins today. So last week we talked about minerals and how they're essential, how they're required in our diets because we cannot make them. No living being can make them. That's what Dr. Hall talked about. And how we must get them, and we have to supplement with them because, quite frankly, our food doesn't have enough of them. Today, we're going to talk about vitamins. And in particular, vitamins are the same way. The only vitamin that a human being can make is vitamin D. And that's pretty important. I mean, you got to think about how important does it have to be for you to survive if your body can make it. If we were designed to make it, it's probably a pretty important vitamin. That's the only one that we can make on our own, and still with the amount of sunlight that we got to be careful we don't get skin cancer or whatever, and stuff like that, because that is what it takes for us to make it. It is cholesterol and the sunlight are required for us to make vitamin D. And even with our ability to do that, we have what Dr. Hall talked about last week too, an inadequacy of vitamin D, even if we have enough. But that's the only vitamin that our bodies can make, and even at that, we have to supplement with that too. But we're going to talk about a lot of the others, their roles, and how detrimental it can be if we don't have them. Today, Dr. Hall is going to make us all healthier. Dr. Hall, what you got?
Okay, and I'm going to end up talking a lot about vitamin D, some of the research that I've seen.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, let's just talk about a little bit of all of them. We have water-soluble vitamins and fat-soluble vitamins. So the water-soluble are vitamin C and the B vitamins.
Okay.
And then the fat-soluble are A, D, E, and K. So I remembered that from chemistry, so from high school. So
That's
I
good.
remembered that.
That's good.
And I didn't have to go look that back up. But anyway, so the water-soluble ones, you take them, and then any excesses you lose it in the urine, all that.
And
You
sweat.
can take a really huge dose of some of them sometimes, and maybe have a little bit of toxicity, but it's pretty hard to do that. So it's hard to take too much in the way of vitamin of the fat water soluble. And we've always worried about the fat solubles because they can be stored in the fat. And so I've always been you need to be careful about fat soluble. Well, I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes and spend some time on that. But anyway, vitamins. So there are the nine water soluble C and the 8 B vitamins. Most of the B vitamins, we know vitamin C pretty well. I think most people understand vitamin C pretty well. And also, I'm not going to spend any time on that. But the B vitamins tend to be coenzymes or precursors to coenzymes. So they work with enzymes that are involved in all kinds of reactions that we need for the body to be healthy. They're important in the synthesis of red blood cells, making new DNA. That's pretty important, and all that kind of stuff. So there are a lot of things that B vitamins are important in brain health. And I'm not going to get too much in that. I want to really talk more about the fat-soluble vitamins because I think it's obvious to me that the way we've thought about them isn't really quite right. We've been off just a little bit. So, but anyway, so the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. And but let's go back. So about 1 out of 1,000 Americans consume a healthy diet. Only 8 out of 100 eat a somewhat healthy diet. So, and I'm not sure. I mean, I posted that or copied it, but it may be 1 out of 100 Americans instead of 1 out of 1,000. But it said 1 out of 1,000.
I don't know.
But anyway, even if it's 1 out of 100 eating a healthy diet,
Yeah.
that's not good. That's still pathetic.
Yeah.
Okay. We're high in calories, low in nutrition. That's just the way we are in our modern Western diet, and we see that every day. We just expect to see people who are overweight.
And it's a shame because calories are it gets all the attention.
Yeah.
It's even what gets all the attention on the freaking food labels. I mean, that is pathetic.
Yeah.
Because, it's like, I've reached my calories today, but I didn't get any of my micronutrients at all.
Right. Yeah. So, anyway, so B vitamin inadequate. So again, we talk about deficiency, and that's what they've always talked about. Now they're using the term inadequacy, so that's a step in the right direction. So deficiency, you have vitamin deficiency, you're going to have disease, So vitamin C, scurvy, we think about that. Vitamin D deficiency, rickets. B3 or niacin pellagra or pellagra, however you want to pronounce it, is okay with me. It's a skin disease, but it also can cause dementia. It's a bad disease. Vitamin B12, historically we think of pernicious anemia if you're deficient in B12, but there's other things. And rickets, and with D, rickets with the kids and older people, osteomalacia is what we think of when you're deficient in those vitamins. But inadequacy is you're below what you need to get for optimal health. And I'm glad they're at least recognizing that now, because we're about optimal health. Mm-hmm. We're about nutrition and optimal health around here. Mm-hmm. And so when you're deficient and when you're inadequate, you're not going to have those diseases necessarily, but you're not running on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. You don't have the energy that we should. A lot of times brain function isn't because the B vitamins, minerals, everything's important in brain function. A huge amount of our metabolism takes place up here. Like 20% of the whole metabolism is the brain. Mm-hmm. It's busy.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
yeah.
even some people we think it's dead,
mm-hmm.
but the
well,
way they act. But I remember when I took physiology. We went through it. We spent so much time on brain and the physiology, how it controls so many things. And I remember we finally finished and moved on. Then it dawned on me we didn't even talk about thinking and mm-hmm. all that kind of stuff. It's just all the other bodily functions that the brain controls and everything. So it's huge. But anyway, so there's going to be brain fog and things like that, and we're just not up to par. We're not, and when you're inadequate, and a huge percentage of us are inadequate when it comes to minerals we talked about last week and mm-hmm. vitamins today. So mm-hmm. Now they talk about vitamin inadequacies. So poor memory, loss of appetite, constipation, susceptible to infections, all kinds of things. So things that we don't think about all that much, but it's a problem. So I really want to talk more now about the fat-soluble vitamins. Vitamin A, we think about vision. It's good for vision, good for skin health. Mm-hmm. Vitamin D is too, but we think about more and more. I'm thinking about immune function. It's so important in immune function for bone health and calcium metabolism, which comes into bone health and all mm-hmm. that. Mm-hmm. Vitamin E is big as an antioxidant, so it helps address the oxidative stress that we talk about all the time. Protects cell membranes, and it's involved in immune function too. Vitamin K, we historically think of blood clotting mm-hmm. and all that, but it's important in bone metabolism and cardiovascular health and all that too. So it's important for the heart and the blood vessels and all that. Mm-hmm. So vitamin A. So I want to talk a little bit about how we are as far as inadequacies now. That's what I'm basically going to spend the rest of the time on. More than half of U.S. adults are not meeting dietary requirements for vitamin A. Mm-hmm. So, vision, skin health, immune function, pretty important.
I'd say so.
And with age and macular degeneration and all kinds of stuff. It's all important. I'm going to spend a lot of time on vitamin D because there's some information out there that's new to me. It's some old information, but it's resurfacing because mm-hmm. they're in some of the new literature is going back and looking at some of the old information. Mm-hmm. E and K Yeah, we're low on all of those. Let me see if I think I have some statistics down here. Maybe, yeah, 51% of us are low on vitamin A. 95.4% are low or inadequate on vitamin D. 94% on E, and 71 on K. Which is interesting to me. When I first heard that, I thought, how does that work? Because you think, I've always thought in terms of fat soluble, it's being stored in the fat.
And most of Americans got plenty of that.
Most of us have plenty of that. And so I would have thought, I would never have dreamed until, fairly recently, in the last couple of years, that we're low on the fat soluble vitamins. But see, now, and I haven't seen this, I'm just thinking this through. Now it's dawning on me that the reason they're fat soluble is because we need them to be stored in the fat, because it's going to be easy to be low on these things. And so there's a reason they're fat soluble. There's a reason they're stored in the fat, because it's real easy to be low on them. Instead of worrying about it from the other direction, it's going to be easy to get toxic amounts. We need to think in terms of, man, we need more because we're low on these. Yeah. And that's the reason they're fat soluble. It's finally dawned on me here not too long ago. That's what the deal is with them being fat soluble.
That's a great point, Dr. Hall.
And I mean, I haven't read that anywhere. That's my own interpretation of what's going on, but I think I'm probably
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you think about too, you put it in something that's every day. Let's think of a car for instance. Let's pretend the gasoline's fat soluble, but the air that's required in the combustion is water soluble.
Yeah.
There's plenty of the air out there. So we don't need to store that, but we've got to store the gasoline.
Yeah.
That's a great way to think about that, Dr. Hall. And we have to be able to store it in our fat because we don't get enough.
Because we're not enough.
That's right.
Enough of it.
That's right.
So anyway, they've always worried about getting too much of that stuff. And I did too. I remember my twin brother called me up a couple of years ago, and his wife was taking, I think, 2,000 or 3,000. The doctor had her taking maybe 5,000 international units of vitamin D, and I went, "Holy cow! What in the world?" And I said, and I here I am giving advice. I said, she needs to stop that. That's way too much. And I looked it up. Sure enough, it was saying no more than 1,000 IUs per day. Well, yikes. Then I started doing research after I opened my big mouth, and so I had to call him up a week or two later. Okay, I take it all back. It's okay to take that because there's all kinds of research on how much of this you can take, and you're not going to believe some of the numbers. But anyway,
I have an example of that I can share real quick personally. I had a, I don't know what you want to call it, a yearly blood test done, just check, see how things were going. And that was one of the things they checked with me, and my vitamin D was low.
Yeah.
And as you can tell by looking at my skin, I get in the sun quite a bit. So I was doing my part there, but I had to supplement with it. Well, I started supplementing with 10,000 IUs a day. Revisited that blood work half a year later, and I was still inadequate in vitamin D.
Yeah.
So there's something on the other side.
I'll give you some numbers here in a minute that'll help explain that.
Okay.
Or in a few minutes. Well, the same thing here. I had a blood test done, and the doctor said, I want you on 10,000 IUs for a year or so, and then go to 5,000. Well, I did that, and the next test after a year and a half or whatever, they said, well, okay, you're in good range. And I was thinking then, gosh, that's a lot, but that's before I really did all this research. So anyway.
So it took the same amount for you.
Yeah.
In a whole year.
Yeah. Yep.
And that just got you in range, and that's where we go to talking about again, is range actually just the right amount, or is it still inadequate?
And that's another thing about people need to understand about where did they come up with all these RDAs, RDIs, and all this stuff. They're guessing. They're guessing. They're guessing, and what they originally did was they took the average American diet a long time, because they figured, well, Americans generally are the healthiest people in the world. And so they took our diet and they just assayed, what are we eating? And that's what they decided is the recommend. It wasn't based on science, wasn't based on anything except just a survey of what are we eating and all that. And it is hard. It's hard to know because it's hard to test food. It's hard to do a study with food and find out exactly what you're getting all the time and what you need and all that, because it's just, we're not lab animals. We're not gonna allow anybody to put us in a cage, at least not yet anyway, and control everything that we eat, drink, and all that. We can do a drug study and have people go home, and it's a brand new drug. With the only people that have it is this, and they can go eat what they want, but they either going to get a placebo or they're going to get this. We can do that, but it's hard for us to do a study and say, look, we want to know how much you're eating and all this, and people aren't going to they're not going to, even if they keep a diary, they're not going to remember everything they eat.
Well, not to mention, like we talked about, the quality of which one is it you're getting.
And that's
this much in this
all
fruit,
over
this
the
much in
place.
this fruit.
So anyway, RDIs, RDAs, that's a guess. Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, let me just say, right now, you can look it up. The current RDA for vitamin D, 400 to 800 international units a day. And I'm going to just go ahead and say right now, that's pathetic.
That's not enough.
That is pathetic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Based on just your experience, my experience, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, just us two did our own little study.
And I'll tell you,
You know, it took more than that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But even with that,
10 times more.
yeah, they've done surveys, and 81% of children and 95% are not meeting the EA. Even at that, we're not getting what they're recommending. 95% of adults aren't getting what they're recommending as the EAR, which is again for 50%, help keep 50% of the population healthy. So this is okay. Let me go ahead and just say that I just found this the other day. They finally were able to do some studies with skin. Guess how much if we're getting some decent sunlight out there, which most of us aren't anymore, for various reasons. I mean, I've already had 2 surgeries on my schnozola because of basal cell, and I don't get any. I don't get in the sun. I have a big hat. I try not to get any sun. I try to get it elsewhere, but not on my face and my ears and all that. But generally, we're not getting very much sun. The average amount of international units of D3 produced by the skin is up to 25,000 IUs per day. So tell me, when they say you don't want to take more than 1,000 IUs per day because that could get toxic, are you kidding me?
Not if you can personally
We're designed to make 25,000 IUs per day in our skin. And we're not doing that because we're not getting out in the sun. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. I'm not worried about taking 5,000 IUs a day,
especially if you're inside with a long sleeve shirt on.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's something to understand. So this 400 to 800 IUs a day is criminal as far as I'm concerned. Okay, but here's some studies that have been published. There were people who took they were male and female, 18 and older. They took up to 60,000 international units per day for several years. Well tolerated and safe. They didn't have any issues. They worry about hypercalcemia. They know, you take too much, you're going to get too much calcium in the blood. They've done study after study after study. You can if you take huge amounts, but 60,000 per day. And I'm not telling everybody, hey, go out and start taking 50, 60,000.
You're just saying it's been done.
I'm just saying this is what the literature says, okay?
Well, and that comes too with the balance too. Like some of the other vitamins, we talk about vitamin K. One thing we didn't talk about was vitamin K2.
Yeah.
One of vitamin K2's responsibilities is to keep the blood clean.
Yeah.
To keep that from happening. So we're talking about a balance there. I mean,
now they're talking about when you take calcium supplements, you need to take vitamin D3. That helps you absorb it. And then K2, you need to take K2 because K2 will move it from the bloodstream into the bones.
Where it belongs.
Where it belongs.
So there you go right there. So if you didn't have enough K2, I mean, this is just, what do we call this, common sense or rare sense?
Yeah, more rare.
Yeah. But I mean, it just makes sense to you. Okay, well, maybe I don't have enough K2 if that were the case. You know what I mean? And the thing about K2, I mean, since I brought it up, I'm sorry about that. But
No, you're not.
no, I'm not at all. But the thing about K2 is actually made in our gut a lot of times from vitamin K. It's changed into it. Problem lies, and you'll find this in other videos we've done. Our guts are not in real great shape. And if we don't have those bacteria in our stomach that can create that conversion, it doesn't happen. And that's the reason you have to supplement with specifically K2, not just vitamin K.
Yeah. Okay, here's I just found this just really last week. And this, and they're doing a lot of historical research on all this. So in the 1930s and 1940s, they published studies with patients that had psoriasis, asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, rickets, tuberculosis, chronic tuberculosis. Doses ranging from 60,000 to 300,000 IUs per day were shown to control asthma. 150,000 to 600,000 IUs per day helped with ameliorated it. Basically got rid of the signs and symptoms of arthritis. And 100,000 to 150,000 IUs per day for 2 to 3 months completely cured many long-standing cases of tuberculosis.
And that's caused by bacteria, right?
That's a bacteria.
Well, you talk about immune system,
and
being able to help the immune system.
That's right.
Because that's a bad one.
But what happened? How come we stopped doing this? Well, what happened in the 30s and 40s, especially antibiotics? We started coming up with antibiotics, and they worked. Penicillin worked on about everything back then. So we stopped worrying about food, and that's one of the things that happened in medicine. Before then, they were pretty big on eating the right kind of food and stuff, but didn't have antibiotics. Then antibiotics came along, and we forgot about all of this stuff. And they started not forgetting it. They started poo-pooing it, baloney. Okay, that's interesting.
That's very interesting.
Now, and then there was a published in 1948, patients recovered uneventfully after taking 150,000 to 600,000 IUs a day for 18 months for rheumatoid arthritis. A more recent toxicity report from 2011, so not too long ago, this is still possible. An individual who inadvertently took 970,000 IUs daily for 1 month, and another who took 1,864,000 IUs of vitamin D daily for 2 months. Now they got hypercalcemia, okay? But they recovered uneventfully with, supportive care and all that. So they didn't have long-term issues. Now I am not encouraging anybody to take 2 million IUs or 800,000 IUs. I'm just saying this is
you're just reading facts.
This is what's in the
literature.
Literature. Yeah. So the point is, when you add it all together, well, here's some more. Okay, here's another one. Said they ingested 150,000 IUs for several months without developing hypercalcemia. 150,000 IUs per day for months and months and no hypercalcemia. And you look at the literature, don't take more than 1,000 or 2,000, you get hypercalcemia. It's not true, So in Finland, they're big on supplementing babies with D3. They give them up to 1,200 IUs, brand new babies. Starting out brand new, they give them that every day, and they're really healthy. But it doesn't cause hypercalcemia or anything else. So 25,871 took 2,000 IUs per day for 5 years, and they were great. They did fine. They had a significant lower cancer rate. That was just taking 2,000 IUs a day. So anyway, the point is, it's going to be really hard, I think, for the average healthy person to overdo it with vitamin D3. In fact, the reality is we're not getting nearly enough in my mind. I mean, and more, especially since COVID and all this, and you're hearing that some of the research, they're saying we need to be loading up on D3. But they're talking 5,000, 10,000 IUs a day. and our skin can make up to 25,000 IUs per day. That's all you need to know right there.
Yeah.
And not that every last one of them is necessarily going to go into the bloodstream, but it does tell you. It does tell you something. We were designed to have a lot of vitamin
That's
D.
right. Because we were supposed to be in the sun all day.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be inside. Yeah.
So anyway, that's something to be aware of. We're low. We are low on this stuff. And I remember when this guy who's a real expert, he said basically everybody in the United States is low. He said, I can tell you everybody above the Mason-Dixon line is low on D3, and 90% of people below in the United States are low. And not getting near enough. And he was recommending 5,000 to 10,000 IUs per day. Well, I think he was right.
I think he was. He might have been
So
underestimated.
I'm not prescribing or anything, but that's what the literature shows.
Yeah.
That's what the research
Put the data
shows.
together. Yeah.
And you know, I know some people, 30s and 40s, they didn't know anything in the 30s. Yes, they did. They knew how to survive.
That's right.
They knew how to live. You know, they lived. And but anyway, that's before the age of antibiotics. That's what they were using, and they were
having success.
D3 is critical for immune response. Well, they're giving it enough for the immune system to do what it was designed to do, to stay healthy, but also to regain health too. So anyway, those fat-soluble vitamins, we're low on them, and I believe now the reason they're fat-soluble is we need to get enough of them to store some, so that when we run low somehow, we got some to fall back on.
Yeah.
But we need a lot more than what we're getting.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, Dr. Hall did a great job of summarizing right there at the end what it all boils down to. We're not getting enough. We have an inadequate amount of, as you heard last week, minerals, and this week, vitamins. I mean, it's just an inadequate amount. These are things that are available for us out there. We've got to supplement our diets with them because our diets aren't getting them by themselves.
The American Medical Association 20 years ago, or somewhere along in there, finally they said they recommended everyone take a multivitamin per day. You know, I mean, that was anathema. They would never have said that a few years earlier, but you know, but they're finally admitting that, hey, we're not getting it in our diets.
Yeah.
So you know, it's just something to be aware. We're not getting it. So we need to eat more healthy food. And remember, just taking vitamins can be a problem. You got to get the food, because you can have problems with taking too much. You need to get some nutrients in you too, to help those vitamins be absorbed and help them to work like they're supposed to work.
Yeah.
Because we are supposed to get them in foods that have thousands of phytonutrients in there that are working together.
They work together to help you absorb them and everything else.
We need to be. You still need to be eating that food.
Good food.
Get those good fruits and vegetables in you, and then take the vitamins. Don't just take a bunch of vitamins. That can be a problem if you just do that. So I'm not.
Well, and even put it to that, high quality meat, as we talked about. I mean, high quality meat is key too. I mean, there's so many nutrients in that too. So, yeah, guys, it's just, we want everybody to be healthy. I know we enjoy it. We say this all the time. We love being healthy ourselves. We do the best we can. A lot of us probably don't do the best we can, but we like to say we do the best we can, because you'll probably catch
That sounds
us.
good.
Yeah, it does. It sounds good. But anyway, guys, until next time, I'm Sean McAnally.
John Hall.
This is For the Health of It.